My name is Mr. Steve. I'm a storyteller. Hello, everybody! It's me, Mr. Steve, and it's time for another story time! And today, we are going to be reading a classic book right here, and it's written by Ray. That's what it's written by. It's written by Ray. So I guess the hero from the new Star Wars trilogy wrote this book, and it's called Curious George, or as it's called in Spanish, Jorge el Curioso. That is true. That is true. That's how it's called in Spanish. This book was written so long ago by Ray. It was written in 1941. Wow! Incredible. There are one or two things in this story that probably are not PC anymore. Meaning that there are some things in here like pipe smoking that was cool in 1941, but not cool for kids nowadays, but we're just going to get through it, okay? Classic book. Let's read it and or make fun of it, shall we? This is George. Well, that's the end of that story. Now it's time for my favorite part of story time, nap time! Oh, sorry, fell asleep there. Where was I? Oh yes, we're reading this book by Ray. I came up with that joke about 5 seconds before doing this story time, and I love it. Once again, I want to thank the customers of Kohl's for buying Croft & Barrel fleece tops instead of buying kids' books, because this was about $2.50. This is George. He lived in Africa. He was a good little monkey, and always very curious. This was Curious George, back when he would get into actual trouble. In this book, he is arrested. Nowadays, he's on PBS teaching kids about science, but one day, George saw a man. He had on a large yellow straw hat. The man saw George, too. What a nice little monkey, he thought. I would like to take him home with me. No! He's just chilling in his jungle home, vibing. You're gonna kidnap him? I would like to take him home with me. He put his hat on the ground, and of course, George was curious. He came down from the tree to look at the large yellow hat. Something tells me the only reason that Curious George is friends with the man in the yellow hat is because he's all yellow like a banana. If he was the man in the blue outfit, I don't think George would be that interested. The hat had been on the man's head. George thought it would be nice to have it on his own head. He picked it up and put it on. The hat covered George's head. He couldn't see. The man picked him up quickly and popped him into a bag. George was caught. Not cool. You're taking him away from his home. The man in the big yellow hat put George in a little boat, and a sailor rowed them both across the water to a big ship. George was sad, but he was still a little curious. On the big ship, things began to happen. The man took off the bag, George sat on a stool, and the man said, George, I am going to take you to a big zoo in a big city. You will like it there. Now run along and play, and don't get into trouble. George promised to be good, but it is easy for little monkeys to forget. So you're just smoking a pipe. On the deck, he found some seagulls. He wondered how they could fly. He was very, do it with me, kids, curious. Oh, he's doing the Jack and Rose. I'm the king of the world. Finally, he had to try. It looked easy, but oh, what happened? First this, I believe I can fly. And then this, splash. "Where is George?" The sailors looked and looked. At last they saw him struggling in the water and almost all tired out. Oh yeah, is that why he's smiling there? Again, he's having a good time. Meeting fish, vibing. "Man overboard," the sailors cried. How about monkey overboard? As they threw him a life belt. That's what that's called, a life belt? Huh. George caught it and held on. At last he was safe on board. Yeah, except for the fact that he's vomiting fish, but okay, whatever. After that, George was more careful to be a good monkey, until at last the long trip was over. Hey, look, I found Waldo and his friend Waldo. George said goodbye to the kind sailors, and he and the man with the yellow hat walked off the ship onto the shore and on into the city to the man's house. After a good meal and a good pipe, George felt very tired. George is smoking, not cool. Smoking is bad, and it hurts your lungs. Don't be like Curious George, because he gets arrested later for realsies. He crawled into bed and fell asleep at once. The next morning, the man telephoned the zoo. Rotary phone. "Hello, zoo? This is the man in the yellow hat. What's my name? I don't have one. I'm just the man with the yellow hat. You can call me Mr. Man." George watched him. He was fascinated. Then the man went away. George was, say it with me, kids, curious. He wanted to telephone too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, what fun! Ding-a-ling-a-ling, George had telephoned the fire station. The fireman rushed to the telephone. "Hello, hello?" But there was no answer. Then they looked for the signal on the big map that showed where the telephone call had come from. They didn't know it was George. They thought it was a real fire. "Hurry! Hurry! Hurry!" The firemen jumped onto the fire engines and onto the hook and ladders. "Ding dong, ding dong, everybody out of the way! Hurry, hurry, hurry!" The firemen rushed into the house. They opened the door. No fire. Only a naughty little monkey. Look at the beautiful sunset on my beautiful face, making it even more beautiful. Hello, children. "Oh, catch him, they all cried. George tried to run away. He almost did, but he got caught in a telephone wire, and a thin fireman caught one arm, and a fat fireman caught the other. Excuse me, don't body shame. Ha! Ray! Don't body shame firemen. You fooled the fire department, they said. We'll have to shut you up where you can't do any more harm. They took him away and shut him in a prison. Curious George has a record now. George wanted to get out. He climbed up to the window to try the bars. Just then, the watchman came in. But who watches the watchman, huh? He got onto the wooden bed to catch George, but he was too big and heavy. Wow, this book is really body-shaming some people. I am worried about my appearance around. Huh, Ray. But he was too big and heavy. The bed tipped up, the watchman fell over, and quick as lightning, George ran out through the open door. He hurried through the building and out onto the roof, and then he was lucky to be a monkey. Out he walked onto the telephone wires. Quickly and quietly over the guard's head, George walked away. He was free. George was kidnapped, almost drowned, smoked a pipe, pranked the fire department, was sent to prison, and has escaped from prison. This is definitely not PBS friendly. Down in the street outside the prison wall stood a balloon man. I'm pretty sure that's Walt Disney, actually. A little girl bought a balloon for her brother. What were their names? It's not important. Oh my goodness. Mickey Mouse is right there. I called it. Mickey, you see that? Mickey Mouse is right there. Oh man, I'm so smart. A little girl bought a balloon for her brother. George watched. He was curious again. He felt he must have a bright red balloon. He reached over and tried to help himself, but instead of one balloon, the whole bunch broke loose, In an instant, the wind whisked them all away, and with them went George, holding tight with both hands. They did that in the movie. Did you see the movie, Curious George, the animated movie? They basically did this. Up, up he sailed, higher and higher. The houses looked like toy houses, and the people looked like dolls. George was frightened. He held on very tight. At first the wind blew in great gusts. Then it quieted. Finally it stopped blowing altogether. George was very tired. Down, down he went. Bump! Onto the top of a traffic light. Everyone was surprised. The traffic got all mixed up. George didn't know what to do, and then he heard someone call, "George!" He looked down, and right there, you see him? He saw his friend, the man with the big yellow hat, who stole him from his home where he was happy. George was very happy. The man was happy too. George slid down the post, and the man with the big yellow hat put him under his arm. Then he paid the balloon man, Walt Disney, for all of the balloons, and then George and the man climbed into the car, and at last away they went to the zoo. What a nice place for George to live. I beg to differ. Because you know what? Look at this. You mean to tell me that that in this zoo, possibly the worst zoo in the world, you have the elephants with the penguins? What? No, not cool. Those are two completely different habitats. You shouldn't have the brown bears and the polar bears together. What is this? We Bear Bears? Some of these animals should not be together, dude. Not cool. Do not like that. And also, the first Curious George book ends with Curious George living in the zoo. Then how come every other Curious George book? You know? Every other Curious George book. How come George and the man with the yellow hat are living together and having adventures when he just went to the zoo? I am so confused. And that's the end of that story. Yay! Classic book. Thank you for watching. That was fun. Did you like that? That was a classic. I had a lot of fun reading and or making fun of a classic book. Hope you did too. Be sure and like and subscribe and all those things I'm supposed to say because I'm a guy on YouTube. We will see you guys later. Hope you're doing all right. Remember, Mr. Steve cares about you. Me, Mr. Steve. I love this lighting. Anyway, we'll see you later. Bye.